Hey guys, this is week 6 of my series titled 52 Weeks of REAPER. So for this week, we are going to be jumping back into last week's topic to wrap it up, which was REAPER scripts and extensions. So there's just a couple more things that I need to definitely dive into. So first up, what I want to talk about is notes. So I've showcased this before, I think earlier on in the series, maybe in week 1 or 2. If you go to the file menu up here and go to project settings, we get the project settings window with a couple of tabs. The last tab all the way over here to your right is the notes tab. And I kind of showcased the fact that we have notes here. We could type the notes in. We have multiple lines, multiple rows. You can keep going and fill this whole area up. It'll keep scrolling down as you keep typing and filling it up with notes. They have word wrap so that everything wraps around and the text doesn't go off the screen to one side. You also have a checkbox where you can have this note always pop up when you open the project. The note always pops up right in your face, so that you can leave helpful notes based on what you were doing in the session, ideas that you have for the next time you come back. I usually put ideas and also what I'm supposed to be doing next when I come back, as far as mixings, my mixing steps and what's going to be done next. Is the pitch correction done? I'll set up a checklist of things that need to get done when I get back in. So when I get back to the project, I know exactly where I'm at, and I can jump in and start getting things done. So with the SWS extensions, if you go over here to the extensions menu, go down to SWS and go down, we have another area that says notes, which is something extra that is added once you add the SWS extensions. And it is more notes, more note options. So right here we have item notes, we have track notes. So you click this drop down and you have different type of notes. So you have notes that are based on the track. So if I highlight a track, you notice it says right here EQ1 based on the name of the track. These notes are connected to these tracks. So then we also have item notes, which right here I have MIDI items. I can have notes just for the MIDI item. I can have notes for audio items that I have also on the arrangement screen. So that's what item notes are. Project notes brings us back to what we were looking at before with my information that I have here. That's a part of my template. So it'll always pop up when I start a new session. Then we have extra project notes. So you can add more notes. Then there's global notes. Then there's some other stuff dealing with markers and regions, which is outside the scope of this video. We'll talk about that another time. But the SWS S&M extensions adds these extra notes and extra note features right in REAPER. No plugin required. It's just now a part of REAPER. These notes are very helpful. I use them all the time to label specific items and leave specific notes on specific tracks. So another good gem to have when you add the SWS extensions. Next up, let's talk about the color picker. So this one, I'm not going to go too deep into it because there are a lot of videos online that talks about this. So I'm going to actually put links in the description for a lot of these things, but I just want to touch on them real quick. REAPER has a function where you can set it up where the tracks are being automatically colored based on the name that you type in. It takes a bit of setup, but if you're into that stuff and you want to do it that way, there's a link in the video description that will take you to a video where they explain it all. They show you how to install it and they show you how to set it up. They explain it. So you guys can check that link out. I'm not going to dive into it. I just want to point out that that is available once again once you install your SWS extensions. Also, there is another color option. There's 2 color pickers. kind of, sort of. And let's look at that really quickly. So by default with Reaper, you can right click on any track in Reaper. And when you right click, you can scroll down to where it says track color. And then there are some options here to just set the track custom color. So you click on that, it opens up this color picker. Pretty straightforward stuff. But also there are some other options here below here, random colors, tracks to random colors, where it'll do all the tracks we have highlighted to random colors, set to default color. And then if you notice down here, SWS track color gives you some more options. So you can utilize this, and this once again is added once you add SWS. But to go a little bit deeper, you can actually pull up color palette. There is one, and it looks like this. I'm not gonna go into the details of this one. I'll put a link in the description. So this one is color palette. The video will be from Reaper Tips. You'll see that in the description. Click on that link and he's gonna go into the details of how this works, all the special features. It does a lot. It might be something that's within your workflow and how you wanna work with coloring tracks and coloring takes and coloring audio clips and coloring regions and coloring markers. It does all this fancy stuff. So check out color palette. And then there's another one that I use. I have a keyboard shortcut for that, and this one is called Chroma Color tool. So with this one, kind of similar to the last one, but I know there's some extra features why I chose this one, or I choose to use this one more. And it's pretty intuitive based on what you have selected. It knows that you're trying to color an item. So over here it says item right over here, but if I select a track, it automatically switches to track, and it knows that I'm trying to color a track. I can highlight multiple tracks and then say color them. There's a lot more features. I'm not going to go into the depths of it. Once again, there will be a link in the description that says Chroma Color, and there's a link under that. Click on that if you want to see a video that kind of explains this, shows you how to set it up, and shows all the fancy features. So I think that's pretty much it with the whole color thing. So we have the auto color situation that you can set up, and then there are those two color pickers. So definitely click on the links in the description if you want to know more about those. Next up, we're going to talk about the Radial Menu. So this was a game changer for me. Once again, SWS extensions. There's a way to install all of it. There'll be a link in the description where there's gonna be a video where somebody's gonna go into the details and all that other stuff. I'll just show it a little bit here. So I have it set to my E key, and if I press the E key, it should come up. There it is. Let me see if I could zoom in a little bit. E key, it pops up. If I just tap the E key, it'll stay up for a little bit. And if I don't start to click on it, it goes away. If I click and hold E, it'll stay there as long as I'm holding E. And it just has a bunch of options, and then you can keep going deeper into the options. So envelopes, click on that. Then we have envelopes that we want to select if you want to go back. And if you notice, when I go to certain options, like I go to set shape, then there's a sub menu in the middle that I can now navigate and select things in here. So it's showing you what's going to show up in that sub menu. So you can click on that, and then now you have these options, and then you can hit back to come out. This is very detailed, very intricate. These two colored menu options, these are menu options that I customized. I don't remember how I did it because I watched the video, I did it, and once I save it, like I've been saying for the past 2 weeks, and I'm gonna keep saying it, whatever I save in my Reaper settings backup file, this is a part of it. This will be saved, so I never have to do it again. So I didn't even set this up on my laptop that I'm on right now. I set this up on my desktop that's not even working anymore. And once I installed Reaper on my laptop, and I installed and imported, I should say, my Reaper settings that I saved and backed up, all these things get restored, and the way I set it up got restored. The colors that I put here got restored. But this is a menu that I have where I can left click, and it does something different when I left click on that menu, but it goes into envelopes. And I go in here a lot to set up pitch and call up a volume envelope a lot when I'm editing, which is something I'm going to show in later weeks to come with some workflow hacks and tricks. And it just works perfectly the way I need it to. And then right click does something else. Yeah, it does random colors, which is something that I wanted to do. So this one button, if I right click it, it does random colors. Let's do that again. Highlight these two clips, hold it. It comes up wherever my mouse is. Press E. And then if I right click on this, it's gonna keep doing random colors to whatever clips I have highlighted. Whether they are mini clips or they're audio clips. And I can just keep clicking and it keeps giving me random colors. But then that's the right click on that button. If I left click on the button, it goes into the menu that brings me to envelopes, and then I can select my envelopes, go a level deeper, I can go back out, I can let go of E, it goes away. But that button specifically is a button that I designed specifically because of certain things that I do and my workflow, and I just need to do that quickly, because otherwise I'd have to go into a different menu that's longer and deeper and sub-menus, and it just takes longer. So that radial menu is very handy. I'm also gonna post another video about the radial menu where someone uses this to load their plugins, which is just a different way. I wouldn't use it that way, but the way they use it, very clever. And it's just to show you the power of these tools that are built into Reaper just by adding the SWS extensions and the Repack Manager. So definitely check out the radial menu. There will be a link in the description that shows you how to set it up. And then there's another link in the description where someone uses it as their plugin launcher. All right, next up, we're gonna talk about this thing right here. So in Reaper, let's go to a new project. In Reaper, the main sampler that you can use is called REAPER 5000. I'm gonna type that in here. So we go REAPER 5000. I'm gonna load that, drag it. This is what it looks like. It's very functional, very good sampler to use. You can learn the workflow with it. I've learned the workflow with it, I'm used to it. You can drop your samples in, and there's a lot that you can get done with sampling. Whether you're doing one-shot sample, whether you're doing one-shot re-triggering sample, like when you're doing melodic stuff with an 808, you can have it where it just keeps triggering the same pitch no matter what key you hit. You can have it where it's following the notes on the keys. So you're pitching up, pitching down, like when you're doing something with a one-shot 808 sample. Now, this is the default thing in Reaper. Now what I want to discuss is this other thing that somebody else put together with that in mind and a whole bunch of scripting and coding, and they created something called the REAPER 5000 Manager, or the RS5K Manager. So what that looks like is this. So let's pull up that action window again. I'm going to type in RS5K Manager. Once I start typing manager, that comes up, and I want to load this one that says background.lua, and I'm just double click on it. Nothing shows up right now, but if I create a track, once I create a track, it populates. So what this is basically like a drum machine where you can just drag samples to, and every time you drag a sample to one of these pads, it will populate a new sampler that I was just showing you with a new track, and there's a parent track and a bunch of children track, and there's a lot that you can do to just quickly load your samples in on each pad, and it's gonna set up the tracks, and everything is gonna be on its own track, and you can add effects separately to each track, each drum pad basically, for each sample. You can add an effect for the overall drum machine. So it's allowing you to create a drum machine where you can just drag your samples to each pad and trigger it that way, instead of you loading the sampler that I just showed you individually. It's doing all that behind the scenes. You've seen the different tracks being designed and created when you pull them in, and everything is being bussed, and children tracks and parent tracks. It's just all being set up for you as you just drag your samples to the pads. I don't want to belabor the point too much. There is a video linked in the description where someone is going to, in detail, show you how everything works. Once again, this is just another addition by you adding your SWS extensions and your Repack Package Manager extension. So definitely check out that link for that video. Some things that are going to be added also, which I'll go into more detail next week when we talk about plugins in next week's video, but there are going to be some plugins that are added. Here is a channel strip that will be added with your extensions, but this is specifically through Tukan Studio. You're going to have to add their repository separately. Like I said, look up how to add repositories, and also just look up Tukan Studios right here, spelled like this. Just look up Tukan Studios Reaper plugins. It's a ton of plugins, which I'm going to showcase some of them next week, but ton of plugins for Reaper specific plugins. They also have this rotary plugin, which is an actual organ with the rotary speaker. You can use the organ with the rotary speaker, or you can just use the rotary speaker as an effect to get that rotary speaker sound and vibe on any sound you want. So very versatile, and that's just a taste of what Tukan Studios offers when you add their repository in. And when it's time to update, whenever he does a new update, you can just go to Repack, go to Synchronize Packages, and run it. It'll do this and update. And if he has new plugins or he did any bug fixes, it'll fix and update all the plugins in Tukan Studios. Once you add the repository that one time, then it'll always be there. And once again, all of that stuff, when you configure everything and you set up all these repositories, you actually never have to set them up again. If you save your Reaper settings, you back that file up, export your Reaper settings like I talked about in that other video, I think 2-3 weeks ago. Go in, back up your Reaper settings, and save that file, because all that stuff will be in there once you import it back in. So that's it for this week's video, guys. Next week we will be diving into plugins, how Reaper deal with plugins, and some of my plugin philosophies. So definitely check back for week 7. This has been week 6, and we are moving along, guys. Thanks for watching, and as always, you'll see me in the next video.